Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank both of you all for your service. I appreciate very much you being here today. Secretary Esper, I support the wall, and I have always supported the wall, but I really have a problem with the funding, which I think you all know our position on should be appropriated by us, and that's our job. The reprogramming of the $3.8 billion of appropriated funds to support the border wall, and the reason it troubles me is that $1.3 billion of that is taken out of the National Guard and the reserve equipment, and the National Guard is every one of us have an affinity with our National Guards. So how do we justify the disproportionate cuts to the Guard despite knowing the vital and ever-growing role in aspects of national security? I know about Homeland Security, but the Guards are frontline in defense and Homeland Security.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think with regard to your first remark, we would agree. Our preference would be that this be funded through DHS.
Right.
But that said, we are where we are, and DOD will support DHS in this regard. And as I was saying to Senator Jones, when we try to find a clear line, objective line by which to draw the sources, we came up with the one with regard to either early to need or excess to need. And as things popped out, it became obvious that the impact would be on the National Guard. It's no pleasure for me to have to make that decision as a former Guardsman myself, but we tried to not play.
Well, you know, also, Secretary, you had said that your night court program has been very successful at freeing up money. Could nothing be freed up there out of the night court?
Well, I spent 22 sessions over 4 months, and we found $5.7 billion out of a 99 to free up. We started again this year, so I did find 5.7 to put into our NDS priorities, Senator.
Mm-hmm. Another thing I would just say, since the tags and the governors are so intertwined, right, had they had any forewarning of this whatsoever?
No, sir. The only forewarnings went out were the consultations I had with the service secretaries and the chairman had with General Langell and the service chiefs.
Another question is, I've just been briefed on the Afghan fighting that's going on and our attacks from, is it today? I think the 4th. I just got briefed on that. Maybe you could bring me up to where we are in Afghanistan with the Taliban right now. Also, the peace agreement, you think it might hold because it hasn't held very long? And what direction, what do I tell West Virginians and people that have been upset about promising releasing 5,000 enemy fighters? That did not go over well in the state of West Virginia.
Sir, I'm not sure I can do it justice in 2 minutes and 12 seconds, but I'll say this much. It's my view, and I'll let the chairman, I'll save time for the chairman to speak, but my view is the best, if not only path forward is through a political agreement. We have an historic opportunity here. We signed on Saturday in Qatar. I was in Kabul at the same time. This agreement that lays out a framework by which we could proceed toward an eventual intra-Afghan negotiation. It's supposed to happen at this point 5 days from now. And the results so far have been mixed.
What kind of signals do we get today? I'm pleased to see at least we supported and defended the Afghan fighters. We didn't just leave them.
Which is allowed us under the document, under the agreement, to defend them. And it's the commitment I made to the Afghans when I was there on Saturday. Right. We will continue to defend the Afghans, support them. The Taliban, are honoring their peace in terms of not attacking U.S. and coalition forces, but not in terms of sustaining the reduction in violence. Our special envoy is over there now. He's going to pulling the parties back together. The critical thing in the next 5 days, few days, will be getting the conditions set for them to sit down with regard to negotiations.
Do we see any retreat whatsoever once we hit the Taliban today from their aggressiveness against the Afghan fighters?
You know, the chairman and I spoke to General Miller earlier on this. Do you want to comment?
Yes, Senator. Bottom line is there was a variety of attacks over the last 24 to 48 hours. They're all beaten back. They're at small little outposts. We did use U.S. air in support of our Afghan allies. What is important, though, for the agreement, we're on day 4. This was small, low-level attacks out on checkpoints, et cetera. But the Taliban have signed up to a whole series of conditions, of which I believe the committee and all members of Congress have all the documents associated with this agreement. You can go through all of it. And of significance, there's no attacks in 34 provincial capitals. There's no attacks in Kabul. There's no high-profile attacks. There's no suicide bombers. There's no vehicle-borne suicide. No attack against U.S. forces. No attack against coalition. There's a whole laundry list of these things that aren't happening. Yes, there were significant numbers of attacks, small attacks. They were all beaten back, and we will continue to
We've seen
support.
that they've been able to control their field fighters, right?
We saw that over the 7 days where they were able to
So, but
go
this-
from a high of about 125 attacks a day down to about 15 a day. They issued out instructions not to attack. That's correct.
So we don't know what caused this.
Well, keeping that group of people on board is a challenge. They got their range of hardliners and softliners, and so they're wrestling with that too, I think. Yes, sir.